Now I'm honored to introduce Sarah Williams. Having enjoyed work as a language teacher and in arts management and education, Sarah's undiagnosed symptoms spurred her to seek another career path that would be equally challenging, though less physically demanding. She retrained as a hypnotherapist, but as her illness progressed over the 9 years it took to diagnose, Sarah realized this career option was not viable either. Supported by her family and while doing what she can to spread the word about APPD, Sarah has since spent her time learning to grow vegetables and to produce useful and decorative objects through textile craft. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for inviting me to speak about my experience with living with APPD. Excuse me. Looking back, I can't believe how much I could do before APPD. I was valedictorian of my college class. I established critical language programs on both sides of the Atlantic, and I enjoyed another career in arts management and education in New York and in the UK. When I had my children, I took time off from work and loved being a full-time mom. We read, played, and explored. I wrote skits and activity books for holidays and volunteered at their school. I had a full and active life, loved taking long walks, practicing yoga and swimming. I was an avid reader and enjoyed all sorts of writing. I served on our I served on our synagogue's council, volunteered with young families in need, and even constructed large models of fairground rides for our city's children's parade. Creativity and interaction with people energized me and fed my spirit. But shortly after turning 40, I noticed strange symptoms. My toes felt funny when I dried them with a towel. My right arm sometimes felt unusually heavy. There were days when all my limbs felt so heavy that I couldn't get out of bed. Then mysteriously, after a few days, I felt normal again. Around that time, my brother was referred to a neurologist after a routine eye exam and was told that he had multiple sclerosis. For 3 years, he gave himself injections, which had debilitating side effects but provided no symptom relief. He finally saw an MS specialist at Johns Hopkins who suggested that he did not have MS, but instead a genetic illness. The specialist at this time could not diagnose what this illness was. As part of his ongoing investigations, my brother had a nerve conduction test, which showed abnormalities in his peripheral nerves. At the same time, I was referred to it for a nerve conduction test for pain in my left foot. In the middle of my test, the technician asked if there was a history of diabetes in my family, and I said no, but I remember sharing what was going on with my brother. He immediately advised me to see a neurologist. Before doing that, I sent my nerve conduction report to my brother's doctor. My heart sank when she confirmed that what was going on with my brother was happening to me as well. In 2010, my brother was referred to a lab at the National Institutes of Health, and I was invited along. We met with a genetic counselor and doctors and completed neurological exams, neuropsychological testing, blood work, and MRIs, which showed white matter changes in our brains. It was, while my brother already knew about the white matter changes, it was new information for me and was especially difficult to take in. When I went back to England, where I live, I was referred to the National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery, also known as Queen Square. Despite return visits and repeated tests at NIH and Queen Square, it took almost 10 years to get the APPD diagnosis. Part of the difficulty in reaching the diagnosis was that we had not inherited the GBE1 gene from both parents, but that we had the faulty gene from one and a faulty connector from the other, meaning we had the deep intronic mutation, which is even rarer. While we were relieved to know what we were dealing with and that none of our children would inherit it, we also learned that there was no cure and there were no treatments. An extra challenge was that APPD was relatively unknown to most medical professionals. Our doctors at NIH suggested contacting the APPD Research Foundation, which we did. Since then, I continue to travel to Queen Square for regular checkups, even though there's not much that the doctors can do for me. The painful burning in my hands and feet is managed with medications like gabapentin. The fatigue I experience is managed to some extent with modafinil, amantadine, and coffee, but these medications do not halt the progression of the disease. Bouts of fatigue, brain fog, and memory issues are more frequent. My bladder and bowel function continues to decline, and I'm losing strength, losing my balance, and stumbling more. There are issues with my vision, and my head and upper body sometimes suddenly pitch forward. I now walk with a cane and use a walking bike. I'm also looking into buying a mobility scooter soon. I have no control over these symptoms, and there is nothing more that helps. I feel a loss of independence. I am less able to think and create. I'm no longer able to work. Before the pandemic, I used to go to a local neurorehabilitation team for physio, occupational, and psychotherapies. I've had access to these therapies, but my brother is not. And I wish all APBD patients could easily access them too. I also wish that there were more opportunities for patients to connect with each other. I know no one else with APBD, and apart from my brother, and it's a lonely existence. Friends have fallen away, even more so during the pandemic. I've had to accept that I'm not able to be a support for my family. Instead, I look to them for support. I look for ways to live as richly as possible as the APBD symptoms progress. I continue to learn new skills like crafting and growing vegetables, even though the capable, active, and outgoing parts of me are fading. So my hope is that ultimately my broken gene and connector can be fixed to produce normal glycogen, and that my damaged nerve cells can be cleared of polyglucosan bodies. I hope for more therapies to restore energy and focus. I hope for tools that can formally track and quantify our symptoms and give a better overall picture of the disease as it progresses. I hope for a comprehensive description of the disease, including the more common and the less common symptoms, to raise awareness and understanding in the medical community. And I hope for better screening to help diagnose people with APBD quickly and accurately. I'm so grateful to the APBD Research Foundation and to everyone here for giving their attention to this disease and for their work in this field. And I'm eager to see how we can work together even more coming out of this conference. Thank you.